I'm back, ladies and gentlemen. Due to the outpouring of support from a good friend of mine here on YouTube, Devious Damien is back with another edition of the In the Ring show. This is going to be my review for tonight's Raw. But before I get into the review, subscribe up above, like the video, comment down below. Anyway, on to the review. So we kick off Raw tonight with CM Punk coming out to address the things that Chris Jericho said last week about his father being an alcoholic. They do a little flashback to that. Punk says that what Jericho said was true, but it didn't need to be said for the whole world to hear. But the side of the story that Jericho didn't tell was the fact that Punk's father had beaten alcoholism, had overcome his demons. Punk said he was proud of his father. And, you know, that Jericho was just another obstacle for him to go through. And then Jericho comes up on the Titantron saying that, basically making a half-assed funny apology, saying he won't talk about his father again. But then he proceeds to talk about his sister and his substance abuse, or excuse me, her substance abuse problem. And, you know, was saying how substance abuse and alcoholism can be overcome, but Punk won't be able to overcome losing the WWE Championship to Jericho at WrestleMania. And Punk basically says that he's going to beat the shit out of Jericho at WrestleMania. They had to kind of bleep it, you know, which the language they're using kind of looks like they're going back to the Attitude Era a little bit here. So, if they are kind of going that direction, good thing. I hope they actually commit to it. So the next we get Kane versus The Big Show and what they billed as a monster versus monster match. Out came Cody Rhodes, basically was playing another, you know, like little mixtape of Big Show's losing at WrestleMania, all his embarrassing moments. Cody Rhodes is at ringside. Kane wins the match here after Cody Rhodes has basically distracted Big Show. Kane wins with a chokeslam for the second rope, and then Cody Rhodes jumps Big Show after the match, handcuffs him, and basically proceeds to just beat him up pretty badly. Big Show had trouble standing afterwards. So then next we get David Otunga versus Santino, and Bornitis was with Otunga, Long was with Santino. Otunga wins here. Why they give this boring fuck a push is beyond me. After the match, Long slaps Bornitis and then proceeds to run out of the ring. Once again, just hyping this match for WrestleMania. So now we get the Rock's promo where he said in front of the Rocky statue, you know, saying that the Philadelphia is the city of ass kickers. How at the age of 12, the Rock was dreaming about being the greatest ever. Then he goes on to recall wrestling the Rock at WrestleMania, the Rock recalls wrestling Stone Cold Steve Austin for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 15, and talks about how Rock has to beat Cena to become the greatest ever. A claim that I dispute personally, but, you know, it is what it is. The Rock said it. I still dispute the claim very highly, but, you know, that's the direction WWE's going. Nothing I can do about that. So next we get Daniel Bryan versus Zack Ryder. To nobody's surprise, Daniel Bryan wins in rather quick fashion tonight. LaBelle lock. And, of course, before the match, we got Zack Ryder petitioning to be on Team Teddy for the WrestleMania match. So next we get Mark Henry versus John Cena. Now, a story had broken earlier in the day that John Cena had been in some kind of minor car accident. He claimed he wasn't hurt. However, supposedly an inside source claimed Cena was more hurt than he was letting on. But, you know, Cena dispatched the Mark Henry relatively easily here. Wins with the attitude adjustment. Rock's music hits. Out comes The Rock. Rock bottoms Mark Henry, basically sending a direct message to John Cena. Basically saying, if I can do this that easily to Mark Henry, you know, look what I could possibly do to you at WrestleMania. So then we get the Maria Menounos, or Maria Menudo, or Maria Taco Bell, or Maria Chicken Quesadilla, or whatever the fuck she calls herself. the whole thing on Extra where Beth Phoenix and Eve interrupted the interview between Maria and Kelly sets up a tag match with Maria and Kelly against Eve and Beth for WrestleMania.
Which we already knew all that.
Yeah. Yeah, we that's already been known because of Bleacher Report and other websites. Thank you, WWE, for not giving us the match that everybody wanted to see for WrestleMania. At least the Divas match everybody wanted to see. Beth versus Karma. You didn't give us that. Thanks a lot, WWE. Yeah, thanks a lot. Really fucking appreciate that. So then we get the Miz promo. Talks about how, King Kong Bundy was in the main event of WrestleMania 2, then WrestleMania 3. He was just in some filler match with Hillbilly Jim and a bunch of midgets. Talk about how that was the biggest main event drop-off in history until this year when The Miz went from main eventing last year to not even being involved in WrestleMania this year. He basically issues an open challenge, saying that he's going to impress Boronitis to get on his team at WrestleMania. Sheamus responds to his open challenge. Wins the match here. I noticed something about Raw tonight. All their matches were relatively short and just really didn't do much of anything for anybody. I mean,
Their only focus is WrestleMania now.
Yeah, it's like they're focusing on WrestleMania, and I mean, okay, I can understand, yes, WrestleMania is 2 weeks away, but you want to push WrestleMania, push it, promote, push, promote, I get that. But don't let the product on your TV show suffer because of it, though. And that's what's been happening with Raw, especially tonight. The matches they did have were short. The winners were predictable for the most part. And so then, we get Josh Matthews interviewing Randy Orton. This interview was fucking pointless. Randy Orton, I don't know what happened to him tonight, but I mean, now some say he's never been the greatest interviewer in the world. Okay, maybe that's true, but tonight he was even worse than I think he's worse than he's ever been. He comes out talking about how he beat Kane last summer, how, Kane became somewhat human, but now there's no humanity in Kane. Saying it's not about how Randy plans to beat Kane, but how Kane plans to beat him. And then he's like, and then Randy's like, I'm not the big red monster, I'm not the big red machine, my name is Randy Orton. And just that's the way the interview ends, and you just kind of sit there and you're like, okay, what did that interview accomplish? Really, I just didn't get what that interview was supposed to accomplish. If you ask me, it did nothing. It just, actually, if it did anything, it made Randy Orton look like a fucking dumbass, what it basically did. So then we get, as far as matches go, what was the main event of the night? Jack Swagger and Dolph Ziggler against Kofi Kingston and R-Truth. Once again, a short match. Dolph and Swagger win due to Vicky Guerrero pushing R-Truth's foot off the rope. Then Oksana and Vicky get into it predictably, have to be split up. Just another... None of these matches on tonight's Raw, in my opinion, were really that good. None of them were allowed enough time to really tell a good story. They just sort of kind of threw all the matches out there and be like, okay, go out there, just kill a few minutes for us, do whatever. So then, the last thing they do tonight to close the show is the segment between Shawn Michaels, Triple H, and The Undertaker. HBK comes out first, talking about how, he's the showstopper, he's the show stealer, and stuff like that. Talking about, how, he could be the one that ends the streak. Just going back and forth about what he said last week. And then Undertaker comes out, tries to say something before he can even finish the sentence. Out comes Triple H, saying that, even though HBK, with his ego, he wants to be all about him, it's not about HBK, it's about Taker and Triple H. saying that there's been like 24 Hell in a Cell matches in WWE history. Him and Taker have been in 19 of them. Saying that he knows what it takes to beat The Undertaker in the Hell in a Cell. And Undertaker's like, do you? Saying, well, basically, you're going to have to sacrifice and give up everything, that's dear to you just to, to beat me. You have to give up your life, and everything. Basically, you have to sacrifice everything to beat me in Hell in a Cell. And asked Triple H if he was prepared to do that. Triple H said he is and he will. And it looks like The Undertaker's about to leave the ring. And so then, but before he leaves the ring, he comes back, looks at Triple H and says, remember when I said Shawn was better than you? He is. And all of a sudden you see get this little, like, mischievous smirk kind of thing on Shawn's face. Triple H looks at him, kind of notices it, and just stares at him. Shawn still has the mischievous smirk on his face. Just kind of being almost in defiance of Triple H. So, they're kind of playing with the idea of you don't really know whose side HBK is going to be on. They're just playing it off, being like, well, whose side is he on? They're not really defining whose side he's on. And actually, this is the twist that's actually making Taker Triple H Part 3 worth watching. Because the way they're playing out HBK as the special guest referee, the way they're making you wonder what he's going to do, even though, yes, I still stand by my complaint that it is going to take away from the focus of the match a little bit, because everybody's going to be looking for, what's HBK going to do? What's Shawn going to do? They're not going to be really watching the match per se. They're going to be watching for what Shawn's going to do. That's my only complaint about that whole thing. The drama they're throwing into the mix is good, but I just don't like how that the focus isn't going to be on the match. It's going to be on Shawn, ultimately, and what he's going to do, and who he's going to help win. Tonight's Raw, I guess for the effect that they were going for, I guess I'll give it a C. Tonight's Raw, I know that all they were basically using it for was to promote WrestleMania, and I guess, they did a halfway decent job of doing that, but at the end of the day, I still think that the reason their in-ring product is suffering is because they're focusing too much on WrestleMania.
Where's the wrestling? Aren't we watching wrestling?
Yeah, we're watching a wrestling show.
Yeah, majority of the ending, last hour or so, was mostly talk.
Okay, yes, we got 6 matches, but you were lucky if one match went 10 minutes. In fact, I don't even think one of the matches went into the double digits as far as minutes goes. I don't think one did. If somebody can, time a match for me and see if I'm wrong, maybe I am, but I don't think I am. I think the longest one match went was maybe 7 minutes, maybe. They basically made all their superstars look like chumps. You take Mark Henry, former World Heavyweight Champion, monster heel for the better part of 2011, and he can't even go for 10 minutes with John Cena? Are you fucking kidding me, WWE? Really?
Well, we already knew they were putting him down because he refused to do a turn.
That's for another video. That's another video I've got to, like news.
And that's why they put him over.
Yeah, news, rumors. I'm going to do a video about all the little news and rumors that they have been buzzing about WrestleMania, about what was supposed to happen, but because of various factors, didn't happen. But anyway, for tonight's Raw, I'll give it a C. Yeah, it promoted WrestleMania pretty well, but the matches were shit. They were stupid. For fuck's sake, let what The Miz did go already. Yes.
And look, they had Triple H wrestle last night, untelevised. Tonight, no wrestle.
Yeah, okay, well, yeah, they had Triple H wrestle in an untelevised match last night. Now, granted, yes, they showed the footage on Raw, at least from the end of the match. But, basically the only reason they showed the footage is to promote the match for WrestleMania. I think they should have Triple H wrestling. That's just me. Anyway, let me know what you thought of tonight's Raw. You know what? Whether you liked it, didn't like it, what your grade is, what you think of my grade. Comment down below. Again, subscribe up above. Like the video. For the In the Ring show, this is Devious Damien saying good night, everybody.